Hi, I'm Jim Franks, and you're listening to Verse by Verse. Today I will be reading from Isaiah chapter 58, verses 3 through 4, where we are given instructions on how not to fast. In the Bible, we have both instructions on what to do and on what not to do. Sometimes both perspectives are given in one set of verses, which is the case here in Isaiah chapter 58. Today we will focus on the what not to do when fasting. Let's read these two verses and then analyze what we're being taught. Isaiah 58, verses 3 through 4. Why have we fasted, they say, and you had not seen? Why have we afflicted our souls, and you take no notice? In fact, in the day of your fast you find pleasure, and exploit all your laborers. Indeed, you fast for strife and debate, and to strike with the fist of wickedness. You will not fast as you do this day, to make your voice heard on high. Now, these two verses are followed by a description of what a fast should be like, and what its goal should be. But let's focus on the what not to do. This chapter opens with a statement about the house of Jacob, or the nation of Israel. Isaiah writes in advance of the time when the nation of Israel, the 10 tribes, were taken into captivity by the Assyrians. This happened in the 8th century B.C., in the years 721 to 719. Isaiah wrote to the Israelites and warned them about their turning away from God in the years leading up to the captivity. He wrote from Jerusalem, but his message focused on the Israelites. The chapter begins with this admonition: "Cry aloud, spare not. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Tell my people their transgressions and the house of Jacob their sins." The Israelites separated from the tribe of Judah and set up their own king with Jeroboam. Judah stayed with Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. This split with the 12 tribes created two separate nations. Each nation suffered over the next 200 years in the case of Israel and 350 years in the case of Judah, with a series of kings, some righteous and some wicked, but the overall effect was a drifting away from God. The nation of Israel began under the rulership of Jeroboam, who built 2 golden calves and declared the feast to be celebrated not in Jerusalem, but in Israel on the 15th day of the 8th month. God sent a messenger to warn Jeroboam of his sins, but to no avail. We read about the end result of this idolatry in 1 Kings 13, 33 through 34. After this event, Jeroboam did not turn from his evil way, but again he made priests from every class of people for the high places. Whoever wished, he consecrated him, and he became one of the priests of the high places. And this thing was the sin of the house of Jeroboam, so as to exterminate and destroy it from the face of the earth. While this was a good 200 years before Isaiah, the house of Jacob, the nation of Israel, continued to turn away from God. And finally, God gave them over to the Assyrians for captivity and removal from their land. This sets the stage for a mock conversation between God and Israel. Verse 3 of Isaiah 58 begins with a question from the Israelites. Why have we fasted and you have not seen? This question identifies the problem. The Israelites were only fasting to be seen or acknowledged by God. The next question continues with this theme. Why have we afflicted our souls and you take no notice? Instead of fasting as part of the repentance process, the Israelites were fasting to be seen by God and also by man. Yet they understood that God did not accept their fasting as being sincere. He didn't notice, so they're asking, why not? The next statement identifies the problem further. In fact, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure and exploit all your laborers. Instead of fasting during repentance, they went deeper into sin, seeking pleasure for themselves while exploiting their workers. Verse 4 gets to the core of the problem. They were fasting for strife and debate and gain for themselves. They were continuing in their wicked ways. We learn from these two verses how not to fast. When you fast, you should be fasting to draw closer to God. Fasting should be accompanied with repentance. If it isn't, then God won't take notice, and essentially you're fasting to yourself. It is like praying, but praying to yourself. A spiritual fast should point to God and not to ourselves. While we may pray and fast to seek God's divine intervention, we don't fast to focus on ourselves, but focus on God and His power to save us from any trial we may be experiencing. The Israelites were cutting themselves off from God, fasting, praying, and worshiping, but unfortunately they were fasting to themselves and worshiping pagan gods. These actions would ultimately lead to captivity in just a few years after the writing of Isaiah chapter 58.
Verse by Verse is a companion podcast to the Daily Bible Verse blog, which you can find on the Life, Hope, and Truth Learning Center. Check out the show notes for more.